All right. Starting with our win over Florida State. It's hard to win on the road, especially when you get to go play in a place like Doak Campbell and Tallahassee, and with the fan base that they have and the tradition and the players that they have on their roster. And I feel like they've improved a lot as a team since we played them a year ago. They're a much better team. You can see the identity of their team. And to this point, that was the best defensive line we've played against. They were very good up front. A lot of those kids are going to have chances to play in the NFL if they keep progressing. And I thought they played really hard against us on the defensive line. And so I was really happy to get that win and continue to raise the bar in our program. Beating Florida State 4 out of 5 years is not something a lot of people can say they've done. And I'm not saying that to knock them. I think they're a great program. I think that just says a lot about what we've been able to do here over time, and for this year, beating Florida State, Clemson, and Louisville all in the same season is a first for me in this program, probably a first for most people in 1 year to beat those 3 teams. When I first got here, and I know that was a while ago now, but those teams were all 10-plus win teams. You had Teddy Bridgewater at Louisville, and they were coming off an 11-win season. Florida State was in the national championship. Clemson was climbing, and all 3 of them were 10-plus win teams. And so, it's good to sit here and see the progress that we've made, and the same with our opponent this week. But I think those are really good football programs, and they're financially invested football programs. It says a lot about what we've been able to do here. It says a lot about our staff and our players and the development of our players. In the game, I felt like we really played complementary football well. I think we fed each other. We assisted each other. We lifted each other up. When they got momentum, our offense would score. Our defense, in the first half, played outstanding football and played really well in the fourth quarter. Individually, I thought, Tanner Engel probably had his best, most complete game. And he's played a lot of football for us. But I thought he just was patient. He triggered when he needed to trigger. He had a good football game for us. He communicated well, tackled really well. I thought Josh Pierre-Louis played really good football for us in that game, stepped up, and we plan on having Tyler Baker-Williams back this week. And so Josh stepped in and really there was no drop off there. I thought Betty played really well at linebacker for us. Corey Durden stood out on the D-line and was one of our players of the game, pressured the quarterback 4 times. The interception Josh had, he was there hitting the quarterback as it was thrown. Offensively, I thought Trent Penix and CJ Riley and Porter Rooks and Chris Tootle and Ricky Person all stepped up and made big plays in the game. Bam ran really hard. Guys protected the ball. I thought Devin Carter and Keon Lassane didn't catch the football, but blocked really well and played with great energy. Did a lot of dirty work in the game for us. And a lot of guys had to step up. You're used to hearing Emeka's name and Thayer's name and Devin's name in the reception category. And it wasn't their day for that. It was their day to do other things for us. I thought Trent Gill continues to set up our defense with his kicking and punting. But just overall, we protected the ball well. The one turnover offensively was on a Hail Mary, which happens. We had 3 explosive plays for touchdowns, and we knew we had to do that. They're a really good red zone defense. The time of possession was 35-25. So, our offense sustained drives and kept their offense on the sideline. And Devin continues to just be productive, with 4 touchdowns. Had a nice run to move the chains at the end of the game. Negatively, and it was a battle up front. Their D-line won sometimes, and that's a good D-line. But giving up 3 sacks is something obviously we're not going to be sitting here and say that's good, even though that's a good D-line. We can't allow that. I thought, from a negative standpoint, we had a couple of drops on nakeds. Dylan Parham and Trent Penix both had opportunities. that could have been big plays for us. And then we had 4, pre-snap procedural penalties. Defensively, we had 7 3-and-outs and 2 fourth-down stops. So 9 of their possessions, we were off the field without points. Stop the run. It was a really, really good running back tandem, even though, obviously we expected the quarterback to be a part of their run game. But the running backs averaged 1.4 yards a carry and had only 36 total yards rushing. And that's who they were going into our game. They'd rushed for 200 yards, 6 of their 8 games. I thought we adjusted well, as a quarterback that we didn't expect to play against, and obviously more of a passer. Didn't give up an explosive for touchdowns. We tackled well. And on third down, we were 14 of 16 on defense. And, third quarter, special teams let the defense down. We gave up a surprise onside kick, and the defense surrendered 2 back-to-back scoring drives, and then they responded, and got back into form. So I was proud of them for, not flinching. Momentum was going the wrong way there, and they just, hung in there and got back to what they were doing. 0 for 2 in the red zone on defense is an area we can get better. I think special teams wise, other than the surprise onside kick, which was well executed by them and poorly played by us, I thought we were really good. Other than that, I thought Trent Gill, had 5 punts down inside the 24, inside the 10, and our missile player, gunners, whatever you want to call them, on our punt coverage, Anthony Smith made a great play down in the ball on the 1 yard line. And Keon was saying they were trying to double him and still winning at times. So it was a good win. And now, our last road game coming up, we've played 4 out of the last 5 on the road. So tough schedule that way, and playing, the team with the best record in our league with Wake, and, a really good football team, well-coached team, staff that's been together, has good staff continuity, systems haven't changed in a long time, and well-coached. The receivers are really good players, quarterbacks playing at a high level, and they're a high-scoring group, and they're playing with confidence on offense, and they lead the ACC. You go through the stats in a lot of categories. Number 1 in turnover margin, with 10 fumble recoveries, which is crazy. We forced 10 and have 1 recovery, and they've got 10 recoveries, so the ball has been bouncing their way on defense, and they do a great job of ripping the ball out, but their 2 receivers, average 17 and 20 yards a catch. They're 2 running backs that we're going to play against, 5.5 and 4.5 per carry. It's going to be a great game and a great challenge. And I look forward to the opportunity for our guys and our staff to compete against theirs. I got a lot of respect for Coach Clausen and what he's done, not just at Wake, but before Wake. And I think we both take a lot of pride in developing players and getting guys to play hard. And it's a rivalry that's been going on a long time, 129-year-old rivalry with I think this is the 115th matchup. So, it's a lot of people that feel a certain way about playing this game. So it's great to be a part of it, and to be a part of it at this point in the season where both teams are relevant and playing for a lot. So with that, I'll open it up.
Jonas, start us off.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned that T-Bake will be back this week. Was there any updates on Savion? He was in street clothes the last 3 quarters versus Florida State. Any updates? I know you said he tweaked something after the game on Saturday.
Yeah, he's day to day. It's just going to be a matter of time. It's something that we'll just have to monitor and see. Obviously, he was walking around on the sideline, so it wasn't anything major from that standpoint, but we don't know yet.
David.
I think so. With Ricky Person, he's had at least 3 catches in 5 games this year. Can you talk about just his development as a pass catcher and how that's helped the offense this year?
One of Ricky's goals was to play better without the ball from a handoff standpoint. So as a pass protection guy, as a route runner, as a ball catcher on special teams, any way he could help us when he's not running the football. And he's worked hard at that. Takes a lot of pride in it. And I think both of those guys catch the football well out of the backfield for us and make plays. It's just another way to get a good player the ball, and the way they were covering defensively, there was one-on-one matchups with linebackers on our backs at times. And so we were able to get him the football and let him make some plays with his feet that way.
James. James Henderson, you have a question? All right, Mike Toper.
Good afternoon, Coach. You touched
Mike.
on it. Obviously, this being a rivalry game, there is a lot on the line this season as far as Atlantic implications. What do you think how do you address those emotions with your players this week, and what do you think that will be like on Saturday?
Well, I think for us, since we lost that game to Miami, we've been approaching every game as a must-win game. So we've been kind of in a playoff mode, I guess you would say, for the last two games. And so the difference in this one is it's an in-state team. Outside of that, there isn't a difference. We have to win this game, the next game, and the next game to be in Charlotte as far as us controlling it, So a lot of people are making this into like the game. Like, to me, it's not. It's the next game of three. And we have to go undefeated in November to basically control our destiny. And so that's how we look at this. It just happens to be against a rivalry team and a team that has the best record that we've played.
Hey, Dave, I wanted to ask you about their receivers, the difficult matchup that Perry and Roberson represent, specifically of guys that Wake Forest has kind of brought along and developed to the point that they can go make really contested catches. It's not just, catching easy balls. They can go get the ball, and the challenge that represents in slowing a group like that.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I can say to that is we get to go up against guys like that in practice every day. Devin Carter and Emeka and Thayer and Porter and CJ Riley. So those two guys for them are really good receivers. They're making plays. They make contact catches. He throws it up, and it's a challenge. We're going to have to play really well in the secondary. We're going to have to help our secondary, with pass rush, with underneath coverage, with change ups, and we're going to have to compete. And I think you could say the same for their secondary against our receivers. I think both sides have difficult wideouts to defend.
Todd Gibson.
Yeah, Dave, is Devin Leary getting the respect he deserves? Because he's put himself together a heck of a season. Do you feel he's getting the respect that he deserves, maybe nationwide?
I don't know. I really don't have a pulse for that, I guess. At the end of the year, I guess, when you guys decide who the all conference players are, and he's on watch lists. I see that. So I guess you'd think he's getting attention that way. I think the guy's playing really good football. His stats don't lie and the film doesn't lie. So hopefully he'll get what he deserves at the end. And hopefully people will see that, and not just vote on people that have a certain thing on their jersey. I hope they look at the stats and the performance and actually pay attention to what happened on the season when they place their votes.
Is this a typical progression for a second-year starting quarterback, or has he kind of exceeded that?
Yeah, I don't know. His last season wasn't normal, he lost 30 days to COVID. So it's hard for me to answer that, Todd. I think last year was really unique for him. He had 30 days out with COVID, and then he broke his leg after 4 games. So he really didn't play last year like a normal first-year starter would get to play, So I think what he's doing is outstanding. I think the best thing about him is what he's learned in the last year, as a player and as a player that couldn't play, watching the guys. And he did a heck of a job, paying attention and not wasting the opportunity to develop when he couldn't necessarily be on the field all the time.
Chapel.
Hey, Coach, I'm doing a story on Kenton Gibbs, your former defensive tackle turned podcaster. Can you kind of tell me about your relationship with him and any memories of getting him to NC State and his time with the program?
You're talking about Kenton Gibbs from Detroit, Michigan, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, goes way back. I knew about him when I was at Northern Illinois. We recruited Detroit really hard and had good contacts in those schools. And so when we got here, Eddie Faulkner, who was a coach for me at the time, was still recruiting guys, you know, in that part of the country. And we found out about Gibbs, and just, you know, bunch of guys that we signed in those two classes came here because they felt like they could help us early. And he's a young man that probably would have, unfortunately had several injuries in his first couple years that prevented him from being able to play for us. So he was always a guy that, you know, we had a lot of respect for, tough guy, a guy that practiced really hard, and a guy that, you know, sometimes the game isn't meant for you, you know, and the injuries prevent you from being able to continue it. So, you know, he had that type of career here, but was always a guy that worked hard and handled his business and was able to get his degree from here.
Dave, I was wanting to ask you about Devin Betty. Had an extended role in this game. Was that relative to FSU's run game, or just you wanted to take another look at him?
No, we felt like he had worked really hard, had made plays in games. We were trying to get some more production at that position, and we felt like he had earned that opportunity, you know, through his play and the way he has gone in games and just produced. He's got a nose for the football, you know, and losing Isaiah and losing Peyton felt like just getting another guy out there that had been, you know, successful at making plays in games, not just knowing the defense. You know, I think there's right now really a 4-man room without playing freshmen. When you talk about Jalen Scott and Betty, who have to back up everybody at this point. So, you know, we're down in that room unless we're going to pull red shirts on guys, and we're trying not to do that. You know, with Caden Fordham and Jordan Poole, they're kind of guys we're trying to keep at 4 or less games. So, but Betty's been very productive and has played well. And in this program, when you earn the opportunity through your play and through your attitude and through your coachability, you get rewarded. And so that's what happened.
Jonas.
Coach, Devin Leary has thrown 8 touchdown passes the last 2 games. I think it's to 6 different receivers. He's had multiple games this year when he's hit 9 or 10 or more guys in a game. I know you said he doesn't care who's out there. He's going to throw to whoever's open. But what does that do for that room with so much talent, so much depth, when they know he's going to spread the ball around? They can all get touches. They can all find the end zone. How competitive does that get? What does it do for the wide receiver group?
Well, I think the biggest thing it does is you better be running your route to get the ball. You know, his favorite guy is the guy that's open, you know, and he's going to go through the progression and find that guy and use the rules of the coverage. And, you know, if it's one-on-ones, he's going to look at the matchups with the DBs and see where he likes that matchup. But I think our offense is built around, you know, using different players in different ways and allowing plays off of plays to help you. And sometimes those plays happen to be to tight ends or to running backs, you know, and sometimes they're to receivers. And I think when you're in a room where just one guy gets fed, you're going to have a room of guys that aren't very happy, you know, and in our case, we spread the ball around. And I think that creates better practice out of guys because they know they could get the ball. And so guys are going to practice hard and they're going to be ready to play and know that they're not just coming in to block. They're coming in. Even Dylan Parham, you know, he blocks a lot for us. We throw the ball to him. You know, he scored 2 touchdowns this year. So there's going to be guys that get rewarded for the dirty work, I guess you would say. CJ Riley's a guy that's blocked a lot this year. He had 2 catches, 1 big catch in the game for a touchdown. I think that's the thing that I think Tim and Joker Phillips, they pay attention to that. Like, who's doing the dirty work? Like, how can we reward that guy, you know, and give him some stuff for the work he's doing in the run game. And I like that. And I like that, the way they do that for those guys.
As a follow-up, you mentioned tight ends who get the touches. When you move Chris Tootle from receiver to tight end, was it something like, could you tell he could put on some more weight and get physical, or were you just looking for a mismatch down the road versus linebacker with him and Trent?
You know, when we recruited Chris, we weren't sure what he was going to be. We knew he was a big athletic guy. He played receiver. He actually played like wildcat quarterback for him at times, so he could run and catch. He has a body type that we didn't know if he'd stay at receiver, move to tight end, or even be a guy that segued to defensive end. Like, he's got a big frame, you know, and he's a hardworking young man. So we knew he would develop because of his work ethic. And just saw kind of a stacked receiver room. And then we saw a tight end room, losing Kerry Angeline, losing Dylan Ottenreith. Just thought it was an opportunity to get him on the field and see what he could do. And I think he was at a point where he needed that too. You know, he was kind of down. He'd been here a couple years, hadn't sniffed the field really, and needed a chance to help us more. And so it's just a win-win for the tight end room and for him. You know, I think, and same thing with Trent Penix. You know, with Bam and Ricky back, we wanted to find a role for Trent. Like he's a very athletic guy, and the tight end room's a room that we wanted to have production out of. I mean, Kerry led us in receiving a couple years ago, so our tight end's an important part of our offense.
And forgive me if I asked you this on Saturday, but are those two guys like two of the biggest mismatches in the ACC? You put them on linebackers, they can run right by you. You put them on safeties, and cornerbacks are too big for them.
Yeah, I think, you know, the tight end Louisville has, Ford, is similar to him, to those two guys as well. I don't know other than that if there's anyone like them in the league, you know, that can block on a defensive end or a linebacker with physicality, but then run to get away from guys, run away from safeties, nickels, linebackers. Like they're definitely matchup problems for people.
Mentality, or did they sort of get it from the start and they've been in it ever since?
You know, going back to preseason, I think the staff and this team knew we had a chance to be really good if you know, things happened the way we thought they could happen. And I don't know when it was, but during training camp, I met with a bunch of the leaders, and it became very clear to me that for us to become who we want to be, it has to be about getting better every day and not about chasing the championship. You know, we've talked enough about that. We need to focus on just getting better and staying in the moment as a team and not allowing what we want at the end of the season to happen to get in the way of how we get to that place. And I think that was a player delivered message to me that I really loved. And so it's been me and our staff holding them accountable to that goal that they set, to just stay in the moment and really be a 1-0 team each week, you know, and just try to stay there and not let people talk us out of it. And I think that's been, I know everyone says the next game is the most important game, and that's true, but not everybody embraces that, you know, and I think this team has.
Aaron,
That was me, Annabelle. I'm done.
I'm sorry about that. James,
Dave, Sam Hartman seems to be running more this year. Has that impacted their offense? I mean, what type of an element does that present for them now?
Well, you know, anytime your quarterback can extend drives, it evens the numbers in the run game. And, you know, he does a nice job managing their offense, giving their players a chance, and then just making plays on his feet. He's a competitor. I have a lot of respect for Sam. He's gutsy, you know, you watch him. He's a guy that doesn't, you know, get too high or too low. He seems very poised, watching him on their sideline, and he's willing to take hits. He's willing to throw his body in there as a blocker on the run game. I like the way he plays. You know, it's similar to, not that they're even close, the guy from Louisville. I really liked how Malik Cunningham played football. You know, like I had a lot of respect for him. Same way with Sam Hartman. I have a lot of respect for how he plays. I just think he's a tough kid that plays hard and manages the game. Similar to what our guy does. I think Devin's a tough kid that's very poised and manages the game, you know. So you got two really good quarterbacks competing against each other in this one. It's going to be a fun game to be a part of.
Corey,
Dave, you mentioned earlier that Tyler Baker-Williams is set to return this weekend. What is his impact when he's on the field, and how much of an impact do you expect him to have against Wake Forest, a team that utilizes a lot of different slot receivers?
Yeah, I mean, defending the slot in this league is a tough day of work for some people. It can be really challenging. And T-Bake, as we call him, and Josh Pierre-Lewis last week, they've done a nice job of limiting the production in the slot for people. It's going to be hard again. You know, number 5 is a really good player for them in the slot and makes a lot of plays, and they get you in one-on-ones with, you know, the way they run their RPO game. So he gives us a 6'1", 200-pound tough dude that can run, defending that guy, and the guy that's played a lot of football and is very savvy, that plays with poise, that doesn't panic when the ball's in the air, that can fit the run, that can blitz. You know, I think Tyler's a really good football player for us in the slot. And so again, that's another matchup that'll be important in this game for both teams.
All right, Jonas, you want to finish this up?
Yeah, Coach, you've talked at various points this year about the energy the guys bring on the sideline, the guys who aren't playing that much. It's definitely evident on the road game. You guys don't have as much support. You see those guys on third down for kickoffs, on drives, they're waving towels and everything. How big is it for those guys to bring their energy and for them to accept that role? Most of them know they're probably not going to play that much, but they know they are part of the team home and away.
We call them the juice squad here. And for us, that's the fourth phase of complementary football. It's the passion of our sideline. You know, it's offense, defense, special teams, and then that love and passion and camaraderie and brotherhood, and celebrating the fact that we're playing football and we're cheering on our brothers that we care about. And so that's something that it's taken time to cultivate, you know, and these guys have bought in, and they're a big part of it. And our players thank them for that. Like when we sit in the team meetings and we talk about our player, it's just like the guy that caught the touchdown. Like you'll hear them giving guys, you know, props for how much energy they brought on the sideline, and thanking Cyrus Fagan for helping them. Tyler Baker Williams in the game was right there with Josh Pierre-Louis the whole game, talking to him and applauding them and, you know, picking him up. And so I think that part of our game is just another way to showcase, you know, the passion we have for our teammates. I think it's a bad message, you know, if you're a player that's not playing in the game and you're sitting on the bench while your brothers are out there going to battle. You know, I think that's a bad message. And so something we don't want in our program. We want the opposite. You know, we want the guys to really stand up and cheer and help and bring enthusiasm to our fans as well. I think it's energized our fan base a little bit, you know, at times where they get sitting down too much and they see our players, you know, they have no choice but to get up when our guys are like that. So it's been good.